Bayern Munich's Bundesliga campaign is getting back underway, but I think that Julian Nagelsmann, Bayern Munich coach, Bayern Munich manager, might soon no longer be Bayern Munich manager. I think he's in danger. We've had those 4 poor results in a row in the Bundesliga. We had a bad performance versus FC Barcelona. 3 crunch games are coming up. 2 top Bundesliga games, a Champions League game. I think Nagelsmann's in danger, and this is why. Because Carlo Ancelotti and Niko Kovac were both sacked in similar positions, where Bayern weren't top of the league. Bayern aren't top of the league. Yes, it's only been 7 games, but we have already amassed a 5-point deficit, and there is unrest in the dressing room. We're having dressing room leaks. Players are saying they're unsatisfied. Players are criticizing Nagelsmann in the press. And this is the start of an amalgamation. This is the start of a stirring pot, where if all players throw in a little bit of tea, it makes a cocktail of explosion. And this explosion will be dealt on Nagelsmann, perhaps, because Niko Kovac and Carlo Ancelotti both lost the dressing room. They subsequently lost their Bayern Munich jobs. The same could happen to Nagelsmann. It seems the dressing room is shearing apart. I think he still can save it. I think he still can save his job, but it's not looking very good right now for Nagelsmann. And if he loses versus Leverkusen and Dortmund, regardless of what happens in the CL, honestly, he could be gone, especially if there's a big loss versus Dortmund, say a 3-0 loss, a 4-1 loss type of loss, which could happen. He could be gone. But the reason why he might not be gone, why he might not be in that much danger, is because, of course, Bayern did pay 25 million for him. He's probably on a big contract for a few more years, and it'd be expensive to sack him. It would be an expensive mistake. It would be an expensive and disappointing admission that it was the wrong signing from Salihamidzic, and that maybe they should have done more to keep Flick. But if the performances are bad, I think Bayern will be ruthless, like they were with Carlo, like they were with Kovac. So, if he does lose those 2 Bundesliga games, especially if he lost the CL game also, I think he might be gone. A combination of losses in 2 of these games and 1 win could see him gone. I think if he wins 1 of the Bundesliga games, he'll probably be fine. But even after this Leverkusen Dortmund, we have Freiburg. We're playing top teams right now, so Nagelsmann's really in the frying pan and into the fire soon. But these are why Nagelsmann has lost the dressing room, but how he can also save himself. So I was really disappointed when Kimmich requested to be played centre mid after he was moved to right back in the game, and this made the team worse because Stanisic came on and replaced ultimately a good Mazraoui instead of Kimmich going to right back, which would have actually helped the team, and this would have helped Nagelsmann's job because he might have gotten more points. But also, I think a lack of respect from Nagelsmann in the dressing room comes for the fact that he's valuing players like this and he's not listening to some other players. They don't feel valued, and that leads to unrest. In addition, Nagelsmann doesn't take responsibility for the losses that Bayern has. He blames it on the finishing. He blames it on his players, when sometimes he should be blaming on himself. And I think this lack of responsibility that he's taken really has made some members of the dressing room definitely turn on him, and which is why he may be losing the dressing room, and he might eventually lose his job. Another reason why the dressing room don't like him, the lack of rotation. Case in point, Ryan Gravenberch played really well whenever he started, and he's not got a look in since. And this comes back to the Kimmich question, but I already had a separate video of that, so check that out. It was my last video. I talked about Joshua Kimmich and why he should be benched for Bayern Munich. Anyway, also Gnabry, lack of rotation. Gnabry played well at the start of the season, got a few goals and stuff, then hasn't played since. He's come on as a sub, but he hasn't been able to build that rhythm, build that rhyme, get on up, it's bobsled time. No, he hasn't been able to do that at Bayern because he hasn't been getting those consistent minutes, and now he's playing poorly. But I think that's because he wasn't playing before, so it's issues like this which are plaguing Nagelsmann. I really think that Nagelsmann needs to rotate more, especially with the World Cup coming up and with key players probably going into the latter stages of the World Cup with Germany, etc. Nagelsmann needs to rotate more. We need to see Thomas Muller rotate. We need to see Sadio Mane rotated. We need to see Joshua Kimmich rotated. We need to see different teams, and we need to see Bayern be able to win games even when we're not playing our best players always. The system has to be sound enough like that, not just built to foster in individual players. It needs to be a sound system, which if we take someone else, they can come into the system and perform at a high level. That's what Nagelsmann needs to do to get consistent results. Because inevitably this season, key players will be injured, key players will be fatigued, key players will run out of steam, run out of gas, run out of energy, any muscle in their legs, and Nagelsmann needs to be able to deal with this. Otherwise, we'll just suffer more losses, suffer more draws, and be in a poor position. But the biggest thing Nagelsmann has to do, in my opinion, is just play that 4-2-2-2 formation. I say it every video, I feel like, but it's so important. We were so good in the 3 or 4 matches we played that formation, and poof, we haven't played it since. And since those 3 or 4 matches, in the next 5 matches, we've had poor results in all of them. We've had poor performances in many of them. It just must return, but that's the hard question for Nagelsmann, because I want that to return with the original Sadio Mane, with Serge Gnabry up top. But that means that Leroy Sané, Thomas Muller, Jamal Musiala, Kingsley Coman, two of those people will have to be on the bench. And for this reason, I think that it's very important that Nagelsmann makes this choice. It's a hard decision, but it's a decision that has to be made. So I think that 2 of these players should be on the bench. It should be Musiala and Muller. Go back to the basics. Go back to the start of the season, which was so good for Bayern Munich, and that's what I think Nagelsmann must do. He also must not be stubborn like last season. So last season we had a great start of the season for an even longer period than this season. This season was like 3 games. It was just an afterthought, but last season was a full dream. We had a great start of the season, great first half of the season. Nagelsmann switches tactics in the second half of the season, and we're terrible. Same thing has happened here, except, as I said, it's just been an afterthought. It's just been a passing daydream, not a full nighttime dream. We are very good in the first few games of the season. Nagelsmann makes a tactical adjustment. We go to that weird 4-2-3-1, 3-4-2-1 hybrid, and now we're bad again. Don't be stubborn like this, Nagelsmann. Don't always tinker your system for each opponent. Play a set system so players can come into it and perform at a high level still. Play a set system so our players know how we are playing. They know how to play, and we play consistently. Play a set system so we aren't always having to adapt to opponents' teams, so we're playing our own style of play, and play a set system, because this consistency was good at the start of season. Now that you've tinkered it, now that you've been stubborn, now that you've changed things, now we are performing badly. We don't need this. We want to see the 4-2-2-2. Nagelsmann, please, needs to play the 4-2-2-2. If he doesn't play the 4-2-2-2, I guess we could have success in the 4-2-3-1. Actually, that's my favourite formation, but it hasn't been good for Nagelsmann this season. But simply, just to sign off this video, I'll be making my lineups video for the game, my player ratings, match analysis after the game, so check those out. But Nagelsmann needs wins in these next few games. He needs convincing wins in the next few games. Bayern bosses have promised an all-out defence, all-out attack, all-out play in our next few games, and Nagelsmann has to deliver on that. If he gets 3 losses, I think he's gone, honestly. If he gets 2 losses in the Bundesliga with a heavy loss against Dortmund, he's really on, what's the expression, on the ejection seat, on the hot seat. He's really on the hot seat, but the heat of that seat is the heat of Mount Etna when it's erupting, because he will be under so much pressure. I'm really looking forward to seeing what Nagelsmann does. I hope he just goes back to the basics. Stop tinkering things, please. We'll see. Very excited. Check out the match analysis, player ratings, lineups video when they come, and I'll see you on Thursday. Or it could be Wednesday for the lineups video, because the match, of course, on Friday. Thank you. Goodbye. Leave your comment. Will Nagelsmann be sacked?